Hello, good morning, good evening, and welcome to Big World Cinema. Without further ado, we'll continue with what you're here for. And if you enjoy this channel's content, please could you like, share, and subscribe? Thank you. So maybe you're considering getting into a long-distance relationship with a Filipina, or are actually in one now. Many of you will say, my LDR worked out just fine, so I don't know what you're talking about. Hooking up with Daphne was a breeze. That's great. I'm pleased for you. What I'll be discussing here is getting into a relationship with a Filipina you've never met before, and the hindrances you might face on your journey. I wouldn't do it myself. I guess I don't need to, because I'm actually living in the Philippines and have been doing so for nigh on 4 years. So having chatted to literally hundreds of Filipinas over that time, I have in-depth insider knowledge of the tricks that Filipinas get up to woo you. Ha-ha! It's funny how Western guys who've previously only dated Western women and have never been to the Philippines, neither dated or even met a Filipina in their lives, will consider moving themselves across the world to be with someone from a culture they know nothing about. What could possibly go wrong? Are planning on moving from a Western country to the Philippines, where the culture is totally different. How in your own country you don't have to explain cultural references to a partner who shares knowledge of your country's politics, history, TV shows, music, slang, etc. I'm guessing you've probably thought this through. So you're scouring online, sifting through the profiles to see who catches your eye. They're all very attractive images, no use of filters or Photoshop whatsoever. They all look beautiful, they all look stunning. But make sure you scroll through all their profile photographs, not just the first one. Some Filipinos will go to great lengths arranging their hair to hide that huge horrific flower tattoo they had carved into their flesh during a rash moment of misjudgment that stretches from shoulder to cleavage. Like, if I keep my hair in this position throughout our courtship, hopefully the fool won't notice. They lure you in with a hottie photo taken 20 years ago, then map their decline through childbirth and rice consumption to lardy chops, shattering your dreams as you instantly scan through the story of their life. If they're honest enough to include those, however, don't be catfished. Unfortunately, I was. The lady who drove her motorcycle through the rain to meet me at my condo in Cebu was twice the size than in the sexy photographs she'd presented me. I wanted to sue for false advertising. Don't expect scintillating conversation. I wonder why some Filipinas are online searching for a guy. It's as if they woke up that morning. I really should try and find myself a foreigner. But don't put yourself out too much, love. I've initiated conversations with literally hundreds of Filipinas online, most of which have gone nowhere. Notice my use of I've initiated. Filipinas don't like making the first move, even when it's expected of them on Bumble app. Because if you match and they don't message you first on Bumble, you can't message them. You spend the first 10 messages when chatting to a Filipina online asking them questions before they ask anything of you. At which point I ask if they've considered reading The Art of Conversation. On the profile, they'll have written nothing. Actually written that about themselves, not just left the space blank. They've mustered up the energy to type nothing. I ask Filipinas what they're doing today. Nothing, they say. Not just one of them, many. I've even included in my profile blurb Tell me something about yourself. Don't expect a response if your messages consist of 3 words, are boring or unstimulating. But they still message, "Hi." "Did you read my profile?" I ask. "Yes." It's not very inspiring, is it? Why should you be interested in them if they've got that uninspiring attitude? But Filipinas don't bother reading profiles. Your profile says your name and where you come from. "Where are you from?" she asks. "You're in the Philippines, she's in the Philippines. Where are you living?" you ask. "The Philippines," they say, en masse. They say, "I prefer that you haven't dated a Filipina before." Yeah, and I prefer you not to have 3 illegitimate children from 6 Filipinos. But I guess at my age, I can't be too fussy. So you met a Filipina online, on a dating website, or through Facebook and one of her Facebook profiles. Yeah, it's strange how the rest of us can make do with just having one Facebook profile, but not Filipinas. In fact, if you're chatting to a Filipina online and they're keen on chatting on WhatsApp and deny having Insta or Facebook, I don't continue. Most Filipinas will have at least one, if not numerous, Facebook profiles, each with 5,000 friends on, which are linked together. They're both red flags for a start. Do you really need more than one Facebook account? Yeah, sure, I don't want work to see what I get up to in my spare time with my secret Filipino boyfriend and illegitimate children, do I? I assume you've carried out stringent detective work. Actually, it's not that difficult. Filipinas are not the brightest bulbs in the room. They're trying to hide the account that shows their Filipina husband, but will link their Facebook accounts together and just try deceiving you by using a profile name which is their real name backwards. Duh. Did you watch my video on going to meet a Filipina in Mindanao who tried to hide the fact that she was engaged to a Filipino guy? When I confronted her, she said, "We're only engaged on Facebook." Ha! As if Facebook's not the real world. Facebook is life to Filipinas. So you're chatting with a Filipina online and have naturally turned detective, trawling through all her Facebook posts and profiles to check that what she's told you actually adds up. You just need to get used to their jargon. What a word means in your country isn't the same here. They say they're single, but that means they're not married. Girls who are dating will also say they're single. One girl I chatted to recently said she'd been single since birth. I went online, found her Facebook profile with a photograph of her pregnancy scan. Maybe her sexual act had been an immaculate conception. The Philippines is a Catholic country after all, but Filipinas do have a tendency to lie religiously. People will say, stay away from the dating websites for a start, which is crap advice. There's nothing wrong with meeting someone online. I've met a number of Filipinas in the flesh after chatting to them on dating websites, although it has taken me 4 years to build up my knowledge. You don't really know what's on offer with some of them, if anything is actually on offer at all. Whichever website you go on, you're going to get your fair share of scammers, prostitutes, ladyboys and time wasters. You just need to be wary and patient as you work through the profiles. Don't believe for a moment that the attractive girl that you think you're going to be meeting is actually the attractive girl in the photograph. It's pretty close to 4 years now when I arrived in the Philippines for the first time. 4 years ago, I wasn't aware of the tricks young Filipinas would play trying to pull the wool over an aging foreigner's green eyes. I was in Bangkok and about to fly to Cebu. I'd signed up to Filipino Cupid for a month and had received some messages from a few interested Filipinas. Meeting my first Filipina, however, was a complete disaster. It was my second day in Cebu. I'd gone to the terraces at Ayala Mall, which vloggers had recommended as a good place to meet Filipinas. Whilst enjoying a coffee on the terraces, I received a message from Cassandra, a 21-year-old pretty blonde on Filipino Cupid. We'd started chatting a few days earlier and had barely exchanged text when she said she wanted to meet me at the airport. I was on my way to Cebu at that time, so hadn't received the message until I connected with the Wi-Fi in my new condo. Cassandra said she could meet me today and sent me her sister's phone number to connect with her. I knew she had a young daughter and was cool with that, as she looked cute in her photos. She asked if it was okay if she brought her sister along. You'll hear this request all the time. Filipinos are generally shy and not keen on meeting an aging foreign gentleman for the first time alone. So naturally, I agreed. I arranged to meet Cassandra by the Pyramid building in IT Park at 7 p.m. that evening. At 6:30, I texted asking how far away they were. She didn't respond until 6:50, said they'd be 30 minutes late. But I decided to wait for them at Pipeline, a bar next to Pyramid building. By 8 p.m. and still not having arrived, I ordered another beer. At 8:08, Cassandra texted saying, "Where are you?" I'd already told her that. At 8:14, she texted again, "Dear, where are you?" I told her I was in Pipeline again, next door to Pyramid. "Where are you?" "Where near?" "How near?" 5 minutes. 10 minutes later, I texted again. "Where are you?" "We're already here." I looked around the bar, but there was no sign of them. How could they be here? I've been staring at the door for almost 90 minutes. "I'm in Pipeline. I'm about to leave. I'm not in Pyramid." "We are here. Where are you?" "We are already here." "Where are you going? We don't have fare here." Paying for my beers, I walked outside, where I found them stood by a bench near the Pyramid building. Blonde Cassandra stood with a young child and another girl with darker hair, presumably her sister. They were petite and looked really young, like teenagers who'd never stepped foot inside a bar before. 2 hours I've been waiting, I said to Cassandra, who stood silently, holding her daughter's hand and rubbing her belly. "And you're pregnant." "See ya," I said, walking away, livid. Having already waited around, wasting the previous evening for a Filipino who hadn't turned up, dating in the Philippines wasn't a stroll in the park as I'd been led to believe. Walking over to Sugbo Mercado, I bought myself a large Tiger Black, as Cassandra sent a text saying they didn't have fare for the ride, having borrowed money from a neighbour, and that it was her sister who was pregnant, not her. "Where are you?" I asked, walking back to find them in the same spot I left them. "So you're Cassandra?" I said to the sister with dark hair. She nodded, saying she'd used her blonde sister's photo, who was more attractive. Not that she was unattractive, but just plain looking. "There's lots of scammers on these websites," she said, smiling. "But that's what you've done. You've used your sister's photographs. Don't do that." She said she wouldn't anymore. I apologised for being angry. The blonde's young child took my hand. It was a tragic scene. These girls were desperate. I asked Cassandra how much their taxi cost. She said 200 pesos, which I handed to her, plus some more. She tried to engage with me, but the situation just felt so wrong as I towered over them, looking down at them like lost children. The blonde, better-looking sister hadn't said a word to me. I fled. I should have listened to Gio's advice, who recommends do not leave your condo until your date says she's arrived. So you're chatting to a Filipina and she hasn't asked you for money. Please don't tell me you've sent her money. First rule of internet dating: do not send money to someone unless you've met them first in the flesh. I've been asked for money numerous times. Some Filipinas are quite subtle about it, others not so. Over the past Christmas, I started chatting with a girl from Cebu on Pina Love. I was in India at the time, but knowing I was heading back to the Philippines, I'd begun researching what was on offer online. She was a beauty queen who attended beauty pageants, and I could see why, as her 6 photos revealed that not only was she very pretty, but also had a great rack, which I'm always a sucker for. On her profile, she put her WhatsApp number, which I'm always suspicious of, preferring to connect with them on Insta or Facebook. But I messaged her anyway, and she immediately responded, calling me sweetheart from the off. But some of the phrases she used were pretty weird, such as we grow this world, we could face a difficult situation. So I was conscious that maybe the beauty queen wasn't real. Having used dating websites for many years, I'm naturally suspicious of all profiles until they prove their innocence. But she told me her real name, where she lived, and where and what she studied. Said we'd speak again the following day, but her load was just for text and not video call, which immediately raised another red flag that she didn't want to be seen on video. The next day, when we chatted, I asked her to send me a photo of her pointing at the camera. So she sent me a selfie. That's not pointing at the camera, I said. What do you mean? She asked. Take a photo of you pointing with your hand, I said. So she did. Sent 3 photos standing in front of a mirror, pointing at it. Okay, maybe the beauty queen was real after all. We continued chatting for the next couple of days and sending photos, with her constantly calling me her handsome boy and sending heart memes. In the meantime, I'd found the beauty queen's Facebook profile, which was quite simple to find really, just by typing her name into the search bar. As New Year approached, I asked if they'd be celebrating. She responded saying, even though we don't have foods to eat, at least we are in a complete family, which didn't tie up with the Facebook photographs she published of the family's lavish New Year's Eve spread. But anyway, I continued chatting with her. Now, a lot of people will ask, why? Why do I continue chatting with these fakers? Why do you go to a small village in Mindanao to meet a Filipina who's been lying about not having a Filipino fiancé? I guess it's intrigue. A lot of the time, I'm more interested in untangling their web of deceit. Perhaps I should get a life. So the beauty queen and I continued our daily chats into the new year. Said it was her finals coming up this week, but wouldn't be able to take the exams unless she paid 1,050 pesos. I knew this would be coming, but I just ignored the message. 5 days later, the beauty queen messaged saying she had good news and listed the grades she got in her final exams. So it seemed like she'd managed to raise the money after all. A week later, she messaged again saying she was worried as she had her final exams this week and needed to pay her tuition fee. Hadn't she already taken her final exams? Oh, maybe these were her final exams. I didn't bother asking. I just stopped messaging, and so did she. Her profile popped up again on Pina Love, and the word popular was written across her profile. obviously raking money in from a number of sad idiots being called sweetheart across the other side of the world. Here at BWC, Uncle doesn't charge a subscription fee like Auntie does, but buying us a coffee would be much appreciated. Thank you. So pretty much as soon as you started chatting with someone online, you need to video call them. Don't continue chatting with someone for weeks without verifying they're not a hairy-ass dude in India. You don't know who he is. And make sure you check every angle. She might have said she's 5'2", but get her standing up next to a door frame or next to her father to make sure she's not ultra petite. As long as her dad's also not ultra petite, of course. I tend to draw a line, or spirit level, at 5 foot. Anyone under that is going to look wrong. She's going to look like my teenage daughter. You might be into that, but not me. Oh yeah, and check her calves. I started chatting to a girl in Walbro. I was in Cebu at the time. This was in days of COVID, when travelling and eating out was restricted. We'd been chatting for a month. I'd seen some photographs of her and she looked quite attractive. She had an impressive rack which had blinkered me from probing further and asking for any further angles. Our chats were great. Most days we'd engage with each other at length. Said she was coming to Cebu to see her sister, and we arranged to meet at Ayala in IT Park. She was wearing a face mask, which was required outside at this time, but continued to wear it after we'd entered the mall. As we walked towards the escalator, she said, "You go first." "No, it's okay. Ladies first," I said. Ah, there's the rub, I thought, as I caught sight of her ankles that were of similar shape to my biceps, and I was working out more at that time too. So we ordered food in the food court. She was still wearing her face mask, and even when we sat down, she'd have probably tried eating her food through the mask if I hadn't said, "Are you going to keep your mask on whilst eating?" So most of the images I'd seen of her, she'd had a closed smile, not wanting to reveal her mighty tombstone teeth. So apart from these physical downfallings, we were also sat at a table with a plastic barrier between us, which was another strange and awkward COVID requirement at the time. On top of this, there was just no chemistry. In chats, we'd got on great, but now together in person, there was just nothing. It was just awkward, with both of us wishing we hadn't bothered. You can't force chemistry. If it's not there, it's not there. There was no talk of meeting up again. It didn't need to be discussed. The daily chat we'd had for the previous month now seemed like a complete waste of time. So yeah, I admire people who are able to conduct an LDR relationship for a long time before meeting up, but my rule of thumb now is to meet up ASAP. Sure, I know that's pretty impossible if you're living up a mountain in Sierra Nevada, but I'm not going to chat with a Filipina for weeks on end unless we've arranged to meet in a fortnight. I'd also advise not to start chatting with someone until you've got a date fixed for coming to the country. It just doesn't seem fair on both of you having to wait so long before your first meeting. And don't make promises of marriage until you've met her in the flesh or have her name tattooed on your flesh. Yeah, you wouldn't do that, would you? Be so stupid as have the face of a stranger tattooed on your body without having physically met them? I've told this story before, so forgive me if you've heard it already, but it was the inspiration behind making this video about LDR relationships, so I'll tell you again. I'd been chatting online with a lady in Cebu. Malu was a single mother with 2 young kids whose Filipino boyfriend had tragically died in a motorcycle crash. We arranged for her to come over to my condo one evening. She told me that she now had a boyfriend in the UK who she'd been in a long-distance relationship with for over a year. They'd never met each other in the flesh, but on her shoulder she had a tattoo of this bald British guy with a beard. As I was rogering Malu from behind, this bald British man with a beard was staring me in the face, which I found pretty amusing and got a fit of the giggles, and needed to explain to Malu the weirdness of her getting a tattoo of a guy she'd never met in person, which naturally wasn't weird to her at all. So you never know what your Filipina you're in a long distance relationship with is getting up to whilst you're grafting away, preparing to make a better life for the both of you on the other side of the world. I don't trust Filipinas at all. I've heard enough horror stories about Filipina wives and girlfriends absconding with an expat's crown jewels. But it's not just about Filipinas, is it? Can you handle it? Communication and trust are crucial. Could you conduct a relationship with someone many miles away, only being able to communicate by chatting or video calling without physical contact, connecting at a certain time when there's a huge time difference between the 2 countries? It's bad enough when you have a disagreement with your girlfriend who lives 10 miles down the road and you're unable to be there to put a comforting arm around her to console or pacify her. But what if she's on the other side of the world? How about the mind games? Are you strong of character and secure enough to handle them? Just a quick reminder to please click the thumbs up button if you liked the video, or thumbs down button if you didn't. Obviously. Thank you. I was in an LDR once. I was studying in Pennsylvania, in the States at the time, an exchange student from the UK studying at Kutztown University. I was 24 years old. In my first week, I met Stacy, a law student from Allentown. She was a striking blonde, and with my 80s bouffant hairstyle, we looked like the Eurythmics, a popular 80s band. We fell deeply in love and were inseparable, together for the whole semester, until I reluctantly flew back to the UK that Christmas. We made plans for Stacey to come to UK the following spring, summer, and continued correspondence by letter and weekly phone calls to a telephone box in the UK that she called collect from the States, with British Telecom paying for the calls. But I couldn't handle the distance and tragically created scenarios in my head of what she might be up to 3,000 miles away. I overthought everything. It wore me down, and unfortunately I wasn't able to continue with it, and have never had an LDR relationship since. I'm just too insecure. So yeah, it takes a certain person to conduct an LDR. I hope you're more successful than me. Good luck, everyone. You've been watching Uncle, the man from Bigg World Cinema. Please like and subscribe and send cash.